Hey everybody, welcome to the Cosmic Dispatch. This is Cory Nakasue, and I'm your host. And I'm going to talk about Leo season today. I've had a little bit of a schedule kerfuffle. No surprise, right? With the recent astrology we've been having. I'm recording this on July 19th at 12:17 p.m. I am here in Kingston, New York, in the Hudson Valley. And yeah, I was going to do what I did last month was have a conversation and then go through the transits, right? Do a little forecast. And like true to form, my guest and I like really just needed, and what's so interesting is the my guest, who I will be recording this conversation with later, we have natal charts that are like the mirror image of each other, and we both got slammed by this most recent. This week in astrology has been nuts. It's been electrifying. It's been turbulent. And both of us have points in our chart that are right in the crosshairs. Sorry, I don't mean to use a gun reference, but right in the crosshairs of the Mars Uranus conjunction that we are still like kind of recovering from. And right now we're prepping for another really volatile full moon in Capricorn that has all kinds of connections to Pluto and Uranus and Neptune, and very powerful. A lot of stuff went down last week. A lot of stuff still going to go down, I believe, this weekend into next week. And I don't know, forever. Um, so anyway, I'm rolling with it. So what I'm going to do is I want to get the Leo season forecast out there. So I'm going to give you that. And then slightly later, there'll be a conversation. And we did have a conversation off the air. And it was a conversation that really needed to happen. Again, like with Mars and Uranus, there's this urgency. It's either I can't take it anymore. It's got to happen now. I've been sitting on this thing for a really long time, and I just need to let this loose into the world, or let this loose into my own consciousness. And so that conversation needed to happen. And, it was a personal conversation, and it was really intense and so good. Of course, I wish, like, damn, I wish, we could have recorded some of that. But some of it will make its way into the conversation we have. And I think it's going to be a really amazing Leo Aquarius conversation, which is what it's all about right now. And kind of we're on the precipice of being, that's what it's all about, Leo Aquarius, for the next 20 years. There's like a huge, we're on the brink of a huge transformation. Two Leo types of things coming from Pluto and Aquarius. Really exciting times. So, um, so that's what I'm going to do today. Let me do some housekeeping since I'm here and I'm only seeing y'all like once a month. So 2 segments. As always, you can check your monthly horoscopes and your monthly forecast in Chronogram magazine. You can get that hard copy in the Hudson Valley, and you can also get that online. And as far as stuff I have going on, that's ramping up. Fall looks pretty busy for me. You can now access counseling services from me through evolutionary psychotherapy here in Kingston, New York. You can just Google that or head over to my Instagram, which has all the ways to contact me. and a ton of links to any of the workshops I'm doing, or if you want to book a reading, that's all there. One thing I'm super excited about is there's a workshop that I am collaborating on with Shay in the Catskills. And that starts in September and it goes to November. It's 2 cohorts where we explore the relationship between astrology and tarot. And it also serves as a container during what I'm pretty sure you don't need astrology or tarot to tell you this. What I'm pretty sure is going to be an extremely destabilizing time in the world, but of course, in the U.S. as well, where people can meet up on a regular basis to check in with each other. I was listening to, I believe his name is Gordon White. I know his first name is Gordon. He has a podcast called Rune Soup, and he was talking with Austin Coppock during their forecast of H2, which is the second half of 2024. And he said something that was really perfect for what Shay and I are trying to do. And he said, more than ever, we are going to need to find our meaning making tribes. Things are going to be, things already are, so fractious, so confusing, that it's easy to get caught up in the chaos if you can't be in conversation or dialogue, some kind of discourse with people where you feel really safe to ask questions, admit that you don't know everything, and invite maybe even some wildly different perspectives than your own as a way to stabilize, not to stop change, but just to stabilize ourselves enough so we can not be reactive. We can take some kind of considered action if we need to have new ways of understanding things, because everything is changing and it's changing really fast, and it's changing more so for some people than for others. And if we're going to try to, at some point in time, arrive with tools and narratives and ways to be in community with each other, ways to be in our own bodies without freaking out, if we don't have those things, I think we're going to have a really hard time. And so it's a container for people who want to develop their astrology practice, their tarot practice, even their creative practice. We're going to be doing some body work. We're going to be doing some writing. We're going to be doing some building of things. But also, if you don't have any of those practices and you just want to be in a good group of people and be able to check in during that period of time, I would check it out. You can, again, go to my Instagram. I have some links there where you can read more about that. And also, if you're like, sign me up right now, you can go to shayandthecatskills.com and register. We're about half full already, but we're taking also people who maybe can't make it live, and we have options if you want to participate through like recordings and like Discord, Slack, through some combination of that. What else? I also think I'm going to be having a astrology as narrative medicine workshop coming up in the fall as well, bringing astrology into the performing arts space, which I'm really excited about, but I'm still kind of hammering that out right now. And as far as my movement cohorts, online movement cohorts, I have a new offering. I'm doing like a slow somatic strength group. And that's going to happen on Fridays at 10 a.m. Again, go through my website, astrologybycory.com, or you can go through my Instagram, which is at Body Intel, if you're interested in signing up for that, or if you just want some more information about that, you can find it there. And I still have some spots in my other somatic movement classes. I like to keep them pretty small so I know everybody and can follow people's development and progress a lot more closely. It's just my preference. So all those will be available like in late August. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in exploring any of those things. And what else? I think that's all for now. And so I'm going to go straight to the Leo season forecast, which is really, honestly, an August forecast. I'm giving you like a little rough preview of what I write for Chronogram. But when that comes out August 1st, it'll probably be a little bit different. And also, I get to say more about the month ahead here because I'm not limited to 300 words. And also another development, I'm also writing features going more in depth with different aspects of astrology in Chronogram, and those will be available online. And so I'm also going to read a little bit about, I'm gonna read you a piece that I wrote about Mercury retrograde because Leo season / August contains a really pumped up Mercury retrograde. Not bad, not it's not the kind of retrograde that's gonna like make you want to pull your hair out. But it's potent, it speaks loudly, and it's pivotal. It's pivotal. Yeah, speaking of Mercury retrograde. And so I'm going to read from that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to be with my head down reading right now so you can like go back to washing dishes or whatever it is you're doing. So August forecast, I titled Royal Reversals because one of the reasons, because of the Mercury retrograde that's happening in August, it starts in early Virgo, stations in early Virgo, but most of that retrograde goes back through Leo. And then when it goes direct, it comes back again through Leo before it finally moves on and carries on with its journey through Virgo. And also the reversal part. There's still a lot of Uranian action, like there has been for the past week. So more of that, more upheaval, more explosive chaos. And one of the main words for one of the main delineations for Uranus is reversal. Uranus, like literally sometimes, turns things on its head. So to have that going on with a Mercury retrograde, yeah, don't get too tied to anything. And the fact that this is happening all in fixed signs, Uranus is in Taurus, Mercury's going to be in Leo. We have a full moon in Aquarius, all fixed signs. We're fucking around with things that are supposed to be stable. We're fucking around with things that are supposed to have some kind of solidity and endurance, things that hold. and they're getting this Uranian jolt, which will blast them apart. So yeah, I'm going to start reading this now. Uranus and an extremely loud Mercury retrograde period combine to upend everything we know about leadership and social organization. Leadership, Leo. Social organization, Aquarius. The heart of Leo season, with its trademark consistency, skips multiple beats as a new pattern desperately wants to emerge. And as the inner planets move through the last degrees of Leo, they will all come into a tense aspect with disruptive Uranus in Taurus. When Venus does so on the 2nd, watch for unexpected changes of heart with respect to allegiances, tastes, and desires. The status quo will no longer cut it. Perhaps the most dramatic time for reversals will occur at the full moon in Aquarius on the 19th. Both the sun and moon will receive a Uranian jolt, just as a retrograde Mercury conjoins the sun to form what astrologers call cazimi, which means in the heart. We have a chance at startling clarity at this full moon, but there is no way we are going to be able to escape the need for change. Like with Uranus, there's almost this you can run but you can't hide kind of situation. And I also want to add to that on the 19th, on that, it's a T-square full moon. Like getting like kind of boinked on the head with Uranus. But another major thing is happening on the 19th as well. So yeah, I would circle the days around the 19th. A major transit, which is Jupiter square Saturn. This is the first hard aspect that Jupiter and Saturn make after the conjunction they made in December of 2020. And if you think back, especially those of you who follow astrology, that was what we called the Great Conjunction that happened at 0 degrees Aquarius. So we're bringing in this more of this Aquarius type of situation, types of things. And it symbolizes a major shifting of order. Like Jupiter and Saturn are the ones that create a lot of the structuring, the hard reality, the cohesiveness and coherence of societies and of lives even. So this, this might hit you on a more personal level. So at this square, we're looking at a turning point or crisis in whatever was initiated in December of 2020. A lot of things were initiated in December of 2020. A lot of things happened around that time, a lot of changes. And it regards shifts in, again, our structures, the way we organize ourselves, and also our principles and ethos. That this happens at the same time as that fixed T-square full moon with Uranus and a Mercury cazimi makes the day surrounding the 19th just finding words. Yeah, with Uranus, there's like no words because you don't know. It's something new that you have never seen before. Uranus also carries with it words like unprecedented. Like I don't even know what to call this. I don't know what this is. So there's that to look forward to. Something goes down. I mean, something's going down every day. But back to the August report. Going back to earlier this month, there's a new moon in Leo on the 4th. Venus will also enter uncompromising Virgo on the same day, and Mercury stations retrograde on the 5th. The Sun enters Virgo on the 22nd. Then at least we get to move on from the fixed energy and all the things happening there. Move on to Virgo season on the 22nd. And it's sort of like cue the cleaning crews, the editors, the organizers to initiate practical steps for finding our way in brand new territory. The progression from Leo to Virgo sometimes looks like, Leo is also a party sign, right? Leo likes to have fun. Like having like some kind of really debauched bacchanalian type of um, celebration or party. And then we go to Virgo and we're like, oh my God, look at this mess. Like, we need to create order here. We need to figure out what's going on. Who's that under the coffee table? How are we going to fix that window that got broken? And it might actually look something like that. I would not be surprised. And then Mercury comes to a standstill on the 28th in preparation for its movement forward through Leo. When Mercury returns to its direct motion, we are still not finished with all of the topics presented during the retrograde. So, like a pendulum, it takes time for Mercury to resume. If you're thinking about the movement of a pendulum, it's not an even, it doesn't move at an even speed, right? There's a slowness and then an acceleration. What was I saying? Mercury to resume its usual speed and move past the degrees it retrograded through. And then Venus, towards the end of August, it makes some game-changing encounters with all of the outer planets before moving into its home sign of Libra on the 29th. So toward the very end of August, Venus comes into contact with Uranus, Pluto, Neptune. And when an inner planet comes into contact with an outer planet, this is where we encounter forces beyond our control, things that are just bigger than us. And Venus is the planet of connection, relating, aesthetics. In some circles, though a lot of astrologers would argue it's kind of a modern astrology thing, Venus represents resources and money, economy. So we might expect towards the end of August to have some really, I don't know, big downloads, breakthroughs, events, feelings, just even realizations. Like these, like, again, game changing. Like, I can't do it this way anymore. Or there's something brand new in my life that's going to change everything, especially with regard to Venus types of things. So something to think about for the end of the month. But then right after it does that, Venus moves into Libra, and Libra is a home sign of Venus, which I think will be really needed. After Venus gets shaken up a bit, it comes home, and when Venus is comfortable, everything becomes a little easier. It's a little easier to be with people. It's a little easier to connect. It's easier to see what's opportunities for peace, beauty, equilibrium, right? If we're talking about Libra, like reestablishing some balance after all of that. So I don't think it's going to fix everything, but it's helpful and it's something that you can use. And so that is the short report. There's a lot of other things going on in August, but I'm not going to do a blow by blow transit because I honestly don't think we're going to hear a lot of the nuance and other things because of that Mercury retrograde. Leo can be, not always, but it can be a very loud sign. If you think about the sign of the Leo, it wants to express itself. And when we put Mercury there, a planet that's about like one of the things it does is it communicates, it expresses itself. There, there's going to be this urgency to say what you need to say, do what you need to do. Um, and with a lot of people feeling that, a lot of people being emboldened to express themselves, things can get very loud. And so I don't think we're going to hear or feel a lot of these subtleties. Again, everyone's different. Everyone has a different circumstance, different things going on. Um, but that's why I don't really see a point in talking about some of the subtleties. It is just not a subtle month. And so, because Mercury retrograde is such a major player in August, I wrote a little piece about Mercury retrograde, which might be helpful, especially for those of you who don't know a lot about Mercury's retrograde and what that period is all about. And maybe I might be able to provide some new insights for those of you who do know some things about Mercury retrograde. Okay. Um, so the title of this is Mercury retrograde, a meaningful conversation with possibility. It's not just about misplaced keys and frequent delays. The process of Mercury's retrograde can be quite profound and necessary. And in honor of August's pronounced Mercury retrograde period, let's examine the features of this complex process. In astrology, the planet Mercury is responsible for the relaying of messages of all kinds. And this would include deliveries to our mailbox and texts to our smartphones, but also the synapses in our nervous systems, traffic signals, and even communication with the dead. In Roman astrology, Mercury was in charge of guiding souls to the underworld and delivering correspondence to the gods. The word mercurial is often used to describe someone who is changeable, as one would need to be in order to traverse realms and translate multiple languages. The daily physical and mental trips that have us arriving at destinations and conclusions, they all speak to all of the forms of movement ruled by the winged messenger, which is what Mercury is called sometimes. So, what happens when this planet goes retrograde? As the name suggests, retrograde is when a planet appears to go backward in its orbit as viewed from Earth. Astronomers refer to this as apparent retrograde motion because it is an optical illusion. Mercury goes retrograde about 3 or 4 times a year, so it's a pretty regular occurrence. Mercury is a fast moving inner planet, meaning it's close to the Earth. And when it appears to slow down and change its direction, the shift is more noticeable than that of more distant planets that don't change direction as often. Retrograding planets in general are experienced as louder and more intense than usual. The amplification of Mercury can be experienced as too much thinking, hypermobility, and superfluous communications. Again, there's that loudness. Mercury retrograde has become a cultural marker of time, even amongst people who don't practice astrology. Like, I'm sure we've all heard people who don't even, like, know really anything about astrology. They say the wrong thing at the wrong time. It's like, oh, Mercury retrograde. They're late for all their appointments that day. Oh, Mercury retrograde. Um, yeah, it's somehow weirdly moved its way into mainstream. And it's become synonymous with lost email, car breakdowns, electronic meltdowns, and the sticking of one's foot in one's mouth. Astrologically speaking, those types of occurrences do fall under Mercury retrograde's jurisdiction, but it can express in many different ways for different people at different times. Some Mercury retrograde periods are more difficult than others, depending on a variety of factors. And given that many of the things that Mercury presides over are such basic parts of everyday living, things like cognition, movement, and communication, it's easy to take Mercury for granted until, it upends your larger ambitions, or, these little details mess up something bigger that you have going. And due to the apparent backtracking, a lot of astrologers use this general rule for working with Mercury retrogrades. It's a good time for activities that have the prefix re, R-E. It's time to rework, review, revise, reconnect, rethink, revisit, etc. It's a bit simplistic, but still a useful way to think about retrograde periods. These periods can be quite supportive of examining relics of our histories or making discoveries off the beaten path. For example, I think most of us have seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, one of the main lines in that film that Ferris says is, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And annoying as it may be, Mercury retrograde periods help us do just that. Sometimes they force us to do that. And they help us disengage from strict logic, linear time, and material circumstance. Another expression of this is in Catherine May's book, Wintering, where she shares a very similar sentiment. Quote, I love the inconvenience the same way that I sneakily love a bad cold. The irresistible disruption to mundane life, forcing you to stop for a while and step outside your normal habits. So there's a similar sentiment, maybe a little more poetic than the Ferris Bueller quote. And when any of the planets go through their retrograde, they go through an underworld of sorts. And those of you who aren't familiar with mythology, the underworld, aka Hades, aka hell, in the underworld, everything is upside down. So during Mercury retrograde periods, we're exploring terrain that is internal, maybe even strange, but definitely a departure from the ordinary. We get to step outside the bounds of time and social constructs and step into darker, unexplored spaces. The world of image, emotion, and intuition live in these spaces. Retrogrades force us to leave room for the miraculous, the sublime, and whatever it is you might think of as the hand of God. This month's Mercury retrograde period, initiating in the sign of Virgo, but mostly taking place in Leo, will have us rethinking what it means to be central. Does all organizational activity need to cohere around one source? Are there ways to organize ourselves and our lives with multiple and non-hierarchical frameworks? We'll also reconsider the ways we express ourselves and the role that shame plays in keeping us from joy, vitality, passion. Without Mercury, one thing cannot lead to another. There's no connectivity. And we lose the ability to stitch together the stuff of life, thoughts and feelings, feelings and people, people and places. Without Mercury's retrograde periods, we lose the ability to have a meaningful conversation with possibility. And so for August, I think we're going to have a lot of meaningful conversations with possibility because the status quo gets upended. And when things break apart like that, especially with Uranus kind of pushing things, forcing us to unearth things that have needed to be expressed, have needed to come up, we also can step outside whatever we think of as normal or the usual or the ordinary and say, oh, there's a different way to do this. And hopefully we won't judge it as, when I say that, it's like sometimes we see something as different. And if we're very attached, again, this is happening in fixed signs. If we're very attached to old structures, old ways of being, old ways of thinking, and then things blow up, it would just be such a wasted opportunity to cling to these old things or try to prop them up or keep them together somehow, throw tons of band-aids on things and like Jimmy rig something together that still kind of looks like this old structure. What a wasted opportunity when we're going to be shown some brand new things. And so, advice wise, and I know this is tough for some people, suspend judgment. Like, check it out. Check out something new. Check out something different. And even maybe explore it a little bit. The fact of the matter, I don't care, which one of the 1,000 narratives you follow. I think one thing we can all agree on is that we are in the midst of disruptive and rapid change, and things are being exposed. Either externally or internally. I know a lot of people right now who are having these like internal volcanoes go off. And I'm encouraging people to do whatever they can, whatever practices they do to allow it to happen, to roll with it. You can't stop a ball. I mean, you can try to stop a freight train. You can try to put the toothpaste back in the tube. But if you're trying to do that, if you find yourself like very, I don't know, very preoccupied with trying to hold things together, ask yourself why. Why are you so attached to holding something together that obviously wants to break? Again, whether that's something that's happening inside you or out externally. Why? That's like a good place to start. Pretty safe. Just, you don't have to announce it to anybody. just question yourself is a good place to start, because we have access now to a lot of new information, a lot of new feelings, disturbing as they may be. I don't think they're anything to be feared. I think they're things that need to be examined and explored. And we are going to get an opportunity to do that this month, and I think for a few years down the road. Um, I will be coming back with, I think, what's going to be a very interesting Leo Aquarius conversation a little later, maybe in the week, maybe a little later in the next 2 weeks. But there is your forecast, short forecast for August, a little update. And I hope all of you are hanging in there and and being supportive to each other, taking naps, eating, hydrating. Yeah, I'll leave you with that, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.